Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 198th episode. In the last 197 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 3,000 school leaders on this very platform where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovations, and what all new are they doing in the education space. तो नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स के 198वें एपिसोड में। पिछले 197 एपिसोड में हमने करीबन 3,000 से ज्यादा स्कूल लीडर से बातचीत की और उनसे ये जानने की कोशिश की कि वो शिक्षा को कैसे बदल रहे हैं और शिक्षा उन्हें कैसे बदल रही है। There is a lot of changes that we have seen since COVID happened, but post COVID, now I think we are enjoying the process of teaching and learning even more because most of the repetitive or redundant tasks have gone to technology and all the innovation has come back to humans. But is this something that has happened to the curriculum as well? That's the big question that we're going to talk about today. That is the education that we are currently giving future ready? जो शिक्षा हम आज दे रहे हैं, क्या वो इस स्थिति में है कि वो बच्चों को भविष्य के लिए तैयार कर सके? क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीजें उसमें ऐसी हैं जो अभी भी बहुत मूड हैं, बहुत ज्यादा प्रिजुडिस्ड हैं, and is there space or is there mental freedom that we are ready to ask those questions and explore their answers? Thank you so much everyone for joining us today. Before we get into this interesting topic, just some ground rules of the game before we start. Blub World Web Talks is kind of a speaking sprint. ये एक 100 मीटर की रेस के जैसे है. It's not like a speaking marathon. So your time is limited. So once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity interesting and crisp for everyone. Secondly, it's a bilingual platform, so you can use English or Hindi, any of these two languages as per your comfort. भाषा ज़्यादा important नहीं है, idea या ज्ञान ज़्यादा important है. And most important, once you see the hand raised either by me or by the Blub World team, that means you have the final 30 more seconds to conclude. Please take that cue so that you complete on time. Otherwise, you might get muted. So thank you so much, everyone, once again for joining us today. This is the 198th episode. Let's talk about future-ready education. The Blub World Web Talks has a simple format that we begin with somebody who's an outsider or who has a bird's eye view into the school ecosystem, and then we delve into what do the practitioners feel, and then we go to the school leaders. So let me invite the first speaker for today to initiate the roundtable. Dr. Shoury Kuttapa, the Academic Manager and Counselor from the Directorate of Admissions and Academic Outreach from Amrita Vidyapeetham, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Shoury sir, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Bird's eye view. Thank you, Daksh. I'd just like to share 2 points. One is taking a word from what you just said, innovation. And the second is how do we actually define future when we say future-ready education? So innovation first. The age of invention is nearly over. And today we are in the age of innovation. If you're looking at, what education needs to be tailored to what's happening outside in the outside world, innovations now are far between and limited. Inventions are now far between and limited. The age now is of innovations. Just to drive the point, a wheel is an invention, but a horse carriage is an innovation. Somebody got married, he realized his wife had 5 suitcases, so he put 4 wheels together, and the rest is history. So the future-ready education will have to sort of be an enabler for innovations. Help people, make them critical thinkers. Make them problem solve in a fashion in where they can take existing materials, put them together, bring out a new innovation, and address an ongoing problem. So your areas of entrepreneurship, your problem-solving skills, your creativity, communication, all these which are known as futuristic skills, then will actually fit in along there. Now, second aspect, how do we define future? Gordon Moore, the CEO of Intel in 1965, he said, the rate of change or the rate of change of technology is by the number of years it takes for chips or transistors to double in a chip. And in 1965, he said it was 2 years. Yeah, which he made it to in 1975, which he changed it and he said, no, now it is 1 year. Today we are in 2022. There was another change to the Morse law, which happened in 2010. And that's for the rest of the panelists to find out what the latest change actually defined. So the thing for us to take away is every, that's the short period in which things change. So when we're preparing somebody who's going to come out into the world in, let's say, 5 years' time, what is we need to prepare him for something which might be happening at that point of time. Yeah, and how do we sort of measure it, rate it? We need to find ways for it. So these are the two aspects I thought I'd lay down in the beginning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shoury. So let me try to summarize what you said. I think a very important question that comes into the question that we have for this talk is, how do we define future? अगर हम भविष्य को literally परिभाषित करना चाहते हैं तो कैसे परिभाषित करना चाहते हैं? Do we only want to put the uncertainty at the front seat, or there's a lot more to it? I think a very important observation that the age of invention is over and the innovation is right now going on. I would rather say दोनों का पेस चेंज हो गया है, दोनों रहेंगी जरूर, इन्वेंशन भी होगी, इनोवेशन भी होगी, लेकिन हाँ, इन्वेंशंस का पेस बहुत कम हो जाएगा because humans have evoluted a lot. Secondly, wheel from a horse carriage, ये एक बहुत अच्छा differentiation आपने दिया सभी जनों को समझाने के लिए. And a very important aspect is education must be an enabler for innovation. It cannot be an enabler only for employability, only for revenue generation. It has to get into innovation. It has to get into making new things and creativity. You talked about Gordon Moore's statement in 1965, which was that the pace of change of tech is 2 years. In 1975, it came to 1 year. I think today we might be talking in days, because the way technology changes, the biggest difference it makes is that the shelf life of our knowledge, of our education, has dramatically reduced to nearly nothing. Because by the time you learn something, it has already been obsolete. So that's the biggest change that we need to overcome, that whatever we teach, its relevance obliterates just in minutes. So now we need to actually think how to transition from just pure knowledge to wisdom. And that's a very hard skill to get into. So thank you so much, Shoury sir, for an amazing start. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Dr. Bhavna Chibber, the principal of Laburnum Public School from Gurugram, Haryana. Bhavna ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. A very warm welcome.
आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. Future of education, we are not here to debate because it is very much difficult to decide. Will human intelligence be depleted and machine intelligence will be overpowered? Will there be students to learn and educators to teach, as technology will be so vast that learning will be a self-process? Such questions are difficult to answer without any debate or research work. So, according to me, education will never disappear. It will just turn up with different forms. So, for that reason, many countries are opted for new things, and we are already there with NEP. So, new education policy has become a long-term concept with the tremendous influence on education in our country. So they have come up with so many things altogether. Right to education, no one left behind, no child should left behind, and so on. Once Albert Einstein has said that education is not learning of facts, but the learning of the mind to think. Future education meets the above line and proves it 100% accurate. So, in near future, distance learning will be powerful. Robotic process automation will be there. So these will be the major reforms. So education is now verged on a major transformation. This I could foresee as a computer science teacher for the near future. So there are so many benefits of it. Faster speed, identification of required courses, upscaling education, proficiency enhancement, engaged learning platforms. So many things are there. So here I can conclude with very few things which I would like to focus on, that we need a future-ready pedagogies, wherein we need to train our trainers for active learning and flipped classrooms. Emphasis on self-directed learning. If we will be able to train our learners that you have to learn and then you have to unlearn and relearn. This we need to train as an educator to our learners. And we need to learn this as a learner also. New technologies such as blockchain, the metaverse is there to train our learners. So we need to prepare our learner for that generation also, for that future also. Then learning goals, learning how to learn, learning how to think, learning problem solving techniques is very much required. So now the time is to train our learner in such a way that they should be able to transform their future in a better manner. I would like to conclude with this one small line of mine. जिसमें कौशल होगा वही कुशल होगा, जिसमें कौशल होगा वही कुशल होगा, जिसमें हौसला होगा वही सफल होगा. So this is the time wherein we need to work not on learning, not on the giving them the instructions. We need to train them how to receive the instruction and how to work them. Means training is required to just adapt and implement that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bhavna ji. Let me try to again put together what you said. Education will evolve rather than becoming extinct. I think education as a word might get extinct, but there will be new words that will come into play. The chronology of things will change. The etymology will change. NEP is kind of a revolution for India, but I think there needs to be more done at the implementation level. Learning to think, that's something that we need to teach them. Distance learning will be the future education vehicle, that's for sure. It cannot be a physical classroom where people have to, it cannot be high stake anymore. It has to go into some low stake mode so that everybody can learn at any point of time with their own comfort. And finally, giving the learner the power to tackle the future. I think this very statement encapsulates that what is that power? Let's try to define and get a little deeper into that power, that if we want to give them literally something that they carry with themselves and are able to handle all sorts of COVIDs and all sorts of uncertainties, then we need to literally list it down, structure it down, that, okay, this is specifically that we'll be teaching. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Miss Manasi Thapar, the principal of Aryan International School from Ludhiana, Punjab. Manasi ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes and a very warm welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Blub World Magazine, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform. And first of all, we have seen that in this era, we have seen that there was a massive shift in the education. There was a massive shift from traditional classrooms to online mode of education. It's been 2 years that the children were only glued to the mobile sets, their laptops. But now when the children have actually come to the physical classrooms, we realize that there is a learning gap which we observe in our children, and it is the need that we bridge that learning gap first of all before we make them ready. This is how we can make them ready for the education, for the future education. First of all, we see that the learning gaps are bridged. They are bridged effectively. Then I want to say that it is necessary that we introduce to them skill-based education as it has been, suggested to us by the new education policy. Skills like technological skills, which has become an indispensable part of education. It's inseparable from education. The technology has become so, inseparable part of education. So therefore, skill-based subjects like artificial intelligence, financial market management. So artificial intelligence, it gives introduction to the concepts like smart cities, smart homes, smart schools, and they learn about the application of artificial intelligence in their lives. So today, artificial intelligence, which is entering all workplaces, and with growing economies, it will again become an imperative. It will become imperative in our education system. So I think that such skill-based studies, skill-based education should be introduced to the children, and financial market management, which is as important as computer skills. It empowers a person to take decisions regarding the use of money, management of money, and retirement planning, about trading, about future markets, and so on. So here I conclude by saying that skill education is definitely very important in order to inculcate employability skill in the children, and it is at the same time, it is important that we impart strong value system in our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manasi ma'am. And I think some very important points that you raised, that the entering of artificial intelligence and at the same time tackling the intelligence of a student. How are these two evolving at the same time? And what is the kind of inputs that must come from the education fraternity so that we are able to teach teens or students things or skills or education or tactics or pedagogy which goes beyond technology. There are some things that technology cannot do, and we are hopeful that might never be able to do. And those are the kinds of skills that we need to finally boil down and identify, and they must be part of the curriculum. Because this is very important to understand. Technology only works on past trends. Human brain works on absolutely nothing and can imagine something that never even exists. So that's the human edge. That's the human edge that will always remain. And that's something that needs to be taught in a very structured way. So thank you so much, Manasi ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Ms. Mrinalini, Principal of Yadu Public School from Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Mrinalini ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Daksh, Gaur, for inviting me to be part of this panel discussion. Future ready education. See, I've heard all panelists, and I agree with them that during COVID, something which has happened that we could not think of 10 years back or 3 years back. So all students starting from class nursery till class 12 have learned very well how to mute themselves, how to unmute themselves, how to attend the class, and how to be, you can say, tech savvy and be very cordial with the technology and the online classes. So this is one of the new thing which has been incorporated in the education, and this is going to continue, and it is going to be more advanced as we move ahead. It may happen, what I can foresee, that after 10-15 years, the children will not be using their pens, rather they will be using the tablets and the keyboards. So they will forget how to write. So it may happen. What I can foresee now, my children are writing answers in the language that what they use in their WhatsApp. So apart from the changes, what we see in our students after this COVID and having everything digital, the positive side that has happened is teachers are able to get connected to the students even after school hours. Student-centric curriculum is very easily now it can be followed, because the number of hours now, earlier it was just 6 hours. Now, since teachers are in connect with the students through WhatsApp or through video call or through online channels, they are able to develop a separate student-centric curriculum so that the child is assessed based on his own performance, not in comparison with the other children. But it is possible only till class grade 7th or 8th. After 9th and 10th, it is CBSE based. So everything is assessed by the CBSE. So they need to change their assessment pattern if they are incorporating, which they are already doing. They have added competency-based assessment question answers in the final board examination. What I feel is that in the end, I would like to conclude by saying that instead of focusing on so much of technology and other things which we are intending to develop and incorporate, we need to focus on something, communication skill and problem solving method or problem solving behavior in the children has to be improved upon, because we do not know after 10 years what kind of society he's going to have. Because 20 years back, we didn't know that we will be talking like this over phone. We will be having these kind of discussions. So even our children are actually not knowing that 10 years down the line, how things are going to be in their society. So first, they have to be adaptive. Second, they have to be accommodative. Third, they have to be ready to change themselves. And fourth, they have to learn how to solve all the problems arising in their life and in their surrounding. So we have to focus on development of the whole person instead of just focusing on education. So we need to work upon so that at the end, children are not stressed. We can see many examples. There are IITian who get stressed and they start committing suicide. So we need to focus on that they develop as a whole person. They are ready to face the failure, they are ready to face the challenges, and they are ready to face any kind of changes which is happening in the field of education or in the field of career or in the field of technology. Then only they'll be successful. A rigid person can never be successful in their life. So at the end,
thank you so much, Mrinalini ma'am. 3 minutes were over, but we'll again try to come back to you. I think a very important aspect that you shared in your talk is making children learn adaptability, making them more curious, making them more problem-solving driven, taking them back to the core skills that will always stay with them, and that will, equip them to handle any and every sort of situation in the future. Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Mrs. Sarita Katiyar, the principal of Aryan International School from Jaipur, Rajasthan. Sarita ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. And I hope I'm audible. Okay. So I was just going through all the panelists and everybody is talking about these days AI, then financial management, then the new features of NEP. But somehow my projection went off to villages in India. Now I'm talking about as though I'm President or Prime Minister of India, and I am looking at, all the aspects from where children start, from where our country, walks into the mainstream. So my future ready education would be how in every nook and corner across India, at every level, whether it is countryside or a village, how are we making children future ready there? See, in the cities, in urban population, facilities available, all ideas are there, every opportunity is available. So in my case, I think our ideology should be such that children should be brought up in such a manner that wherever they are, they know how to use their studies into application, one. Then use education into practical aspect of life, two. Thirdly, they should be brought up in such a manner that they are confident children who do not have any complexes. That, we are in villages, why? We should be walking towards urban area, rural areas are backward. All these, if and buts should be taken away. And wherever they are, nowadays, I think we should glamorize villages in such a manner so that the children feel confident staying there and doing lots for the country. So in my ideology, future-ready children are those who have less opportunities and who are away from the cities. At the same time, they have equal opportunities. They have that kind of a brain, that set up in mind that whatever we are doing is the best, making best use of possible things. Because see, if you talk about cities, there are various other issues also which children face, maybe in terms of adaptability, maybe in terms of pollution, maybe in terms of challenges, which are too many. And when you talk about certain humble backgrounds and rural background, there is vast area available where they can do things at a very cool pace without having much challenges, much competition. And I'm sure if given right kind of opportunities, those children can produce even far better than what children in city areas are doing. So my ideology suddenly, after hearing everything, changed. I was about to say something else, but then I suddenly felt that we all know, because we live in cities, we've been educated in bigger cities, we know what is happening here. But when you go to, I belong to UP, and I know that in rural parts, things are not very, very clean and clear, though factories have reached. But who works in those factories? Very, humble people. But then CEOs do not come from there. CEOs are taken from cities and then placed there. So my future-ready children would be someone who knows, who's confident to use the opportunities. He has that gusto, and we are there to help them out. This would be future-ready India. So I firmly believe in that.
Thank you so much, Sarita ma'am. I think very new kind of an aspect that came to the discussion, that we are propagating and talking about isolation and the importance of isolation from technology, from the hustle and bustle of the cities. Because what we are seeing in most of the cases right now is that we are seeing technology addiction. We are seeing children who are not not in a state to concentrate. They get digressed so easily. They're not able to stay focused onto anything. And these are the skills that are becoming critical now. That can you leave everything, believe in yourself, and think that you will drive the world and you are the one who's going to do the innovations? Are we able, and are we in a state where a teenager or a learner is ready to introspect, when he's ready to get inside of his own head and understand that what's going around me and how do I impact my surroundings? So thank you so much, ma'am. I think a very important aspect that you also talked about is glamorizing the village life or villages. It is also important because India can now no more handle the load of urbanization. If we look specifically to India, we have to have activities that de-urbanize India. There have been some measures that were taken in China, but again, they were so, not in the right taste that cannot be implemented in India. But there has to be more ideas around this, so that people are again ready to live in a tier 2, tier 3 city. So thank you so much, ma'am. We'll come back to you, but the 3 minutes are over. We'll now go to the next speaker for now. Let me now invite the next speaker, Mrs. Subina Chopra, the director of the Aryan International School from Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. Subina ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Good evening once again, everybody. It's a pleasure talking, and I'm really happy to hear everyone speaking. So let me begin quickly by quoting a very eminent educationist saying that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the society. And I very strongly feel that knowledge is power and smile is its strength. And why do I say smile is its strength? Its strength is, I'll tell you later. A small incident which happened with me. Once I went to visit my aunt, and she is grandmother and she has a great granddaughter. And she asked me one simple question. She said that, I don't know why my granddaughter is sending her daughter, who's just 1.5 years old, to school. When we were small, we went to school when we were just 6-year-old. So I said one simple thing. I said, when we were small, or when my aunt was small, or when my mother was small, we used to play with children, playing with the wheat flour, or playing kitchen set, or we played stapu, or played with bat and ball, and did all sort of things, played in the garden, which we always had. Now houses don't have gardens, so we used to play so much of outdoor games. Now that thing has come into the classroom with a very sophisticated name as experiential learning, and given a more formal word to it. So now what we used to do it in a very normal way, informal way, with our friends, with our cousins who would come. Now there are no cousins in the house, there are no friends, they are single children. So now they go to school and do the same activities in a more organized and a formal name, given a sophisticated name to as experiential learning, which we talk about. So all these are things where you learn the gross motor skills, fine motor skills, which we did naturally when we were small children. Anyway, so every word of the training is given a technical name. So what I want to come to the thing is that major thing which earlier also people used to talk about is that education is not only about knowledge, it is about creativity and imagination, enhancing creativity and enhancing imagination. So for example, if we talk about social sides, those necklaces and their pottery and things, and what farmers used to use to plow the fields and to sow seeds. Now, if we give, pedagogy of how to teach them today, I would personally make them do, okay, how they did in the previous century, how they're doing now, and what they would do in the forthcoming years. So that is how we improve their creativity and the keenness to learn and invent, right? So that is what we call in experiential learning. So if they would use drones to sow seeds, instead of using the machines, so how they would take it forward in the forthcoming century, in the following years. So now people use, virtual teaching. They would come on a hologram and they.
Subina ma'am, the 3 minutes are over. Thank you so much. I'll try to summarize what you said. Knowledge is power and smile is its strength. I think it can further be rephrased into that knowledge is your power and smile is what gives you humility, because knowledge without humility is absolutely nothing. And you must understand the essence of knowledge. It's for usefulness, not for exerting pressure anywhere at any point of time. Childhood games have evolved into preschools. We are super ready to send a child to school as and when he comes out of the maternity home. This is something that needs to change immediately. We need to now get back to a little bit of parenting, because we are now living in an age where there are nuclear families. There's nobody in the family to talk about all this. When we want a parent to be the first teacher, there must be a teacher for that parent as well. And that teacher is missing right now. Packaging of normal life activities into experiential learning, and a very important concluding statement that you made, we must ask all the learners to draw a life canvas. Draw things the way you do it right now and the way you imagine you'll be doing in the future. If you have some imagination, bring it down onto paper and see that can that imagination really become the future. So thank you so much, Subina ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today. Dr. Vinaya S., the principal of Indra Priyadarshini School from Bangalore, Karnataka. Vinaya ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, everybody. It was really nice listening to all the educators over here. And before I just start up and not go too speed because the time is less limit, I wish everybody the 9th day of Navratri, which is celebrated on a great pomp here. And today is the best day to actually say about something as future education, because today is something where Goddess Siddhartri is worship, who gives siddhis to everybody. As I always believe that life is not to be understood from backwards, but we have to live forwards. And this is what has to be manifested to all our kids. The thing is that education, as all other educators said, is not going to disappear. Our future is going to be there, but it's going to really change. As we are seeing so many changes, which all of us have just spoken here, it's going to change, but in next 20 years, there will be many things, but more 4 major things, which I would just say because of the crux of time. The very first one is free choice. As every child should get a free choice and aim for a same destination, because it's going to be the next future for our education. The students will have to modify their process of learning, and they will themselves program. As we are seeing, small kids have started programming several things. So the students should get a free choice of learning, where a curriculum should be based on, so that children should be involved into a kind of making the curriculum blended learning, flipped classrooms, or any new form of learning, which we call it. Second very important thing I feel is project-based, because career which they are going to adapt in future, as we say that it's changing every now and then, every second. As you see any Android phone, you pick up any Apple phone, it keeps changing every day. It has every new features. The same thing the children also have to have. So since the careers are as such that it has to be constantly changed, our project-based learning will help them to analyze the situations, and they are already, if they're equipped with a proper project-based learning, they can be well organized, they can be well collaborative, they can have time management skills. This can then replicate into a future academic careers, or you can say academicians in our generations. Next is the student ownership. Very importantly, I feel the student is going to be owning their own curricula. As we are seeing and talking now, the new education policy, how was it framed? What was the points which was being taken ahead to frame this new education policy? There was a lot more educators, and not only educators, but also the perspective of the student side was seen. So student will be more and more involved in the forming of curricula, maintaining the curriculum, which can be up to date on a day-to-day basis, evolving. So realistic professionals, youngsters can be evolved in that. So we will also have to start doing it. So content and our courses should be as that. We must be all embracing what the student want to have in their study program. And the fourth point, which I would like to say, is mentoring will become more important. So mentoring, that is, we as educators has to be very much cautious about how and what are we going to mentor them. Is my time over, or is there still there? And the last but not least, just 30 seconds, we need to inculcate the qualities like empathy, initiative, adaptability, culture, leadership, resilience, social and cultural awareness. I would just say to every child, every educator here, nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. We just have to smile, dream, and achieve.
Thank you so much, Vinaya ma'am. I think a very important thing that we forgot and that you started your talk with, that today is Goddess Siddhartri's day when she's worshipped. And this is the time when you need to talk about that. What kind of siddhis are we giving to our students? And what are the ways are we giving it to them? You talked about 4 things. And I think very nicely, articulated. First, free choice of learning. And I think with this, they must also be taught how to choose. What are the different models of choosing things? How do you look at things? Second, project-based learning for ever-changing environment. We are typically making them ready for uncertainty when we try to boil down the topic or go a little deeper into the topic. When we say future-ready education, it's simply dealing with uncertainty. You talked about student onus on curriculum. I would say not only on the curriculum, student onus on everything. The more decision-making that they'll do themselves, the more they will learn. And they must always be ready for the ramifications of whatever they say and do in life. And finally, mentoring to be the future way of teaching. We now need to understand that the teacher cannot be a teacher anymore because the learner cannot be a learner anymore. Both the things are evolving and there's a lot of exchange that's going to happen. It's no more a dictation. It's now a conversation. If you are ready to converse. So thank you so much, everyone. Most of the speakers have shared their ideas and thoughts. Now it's an open floor for the next 5-10 minutes. So if you have anything in your mind that you could not put out there, or if you got muted, if there was any challenge, now is the time. You can just, raise your hand and mute yourself, speak out. The only thing, keep respecting each other and let everyone speak. So over to you. It's an open floor now. Yes, Subina ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, like everybody else also has said, that the society is going to change where everything will be technology driven. So the society will not be social anymore. So the social skills are going to take a back seat. So to compensate for that, we have to inculcate yoga, meditation, which we never talked about before. So when we used to play with our friends and our cousins, the dopamine would flow easily. But now we have to kind of, do those classroom activities which will emit more dopamine, because they're going to be more asocial now. And that's going to take a toll on their psychology. So of course, yoga and meditation also and spiritual knowledge also should be a part of the curriculum, along with technology, because technology is going to play take a toll on their psyche. So that's what I want to know. I mean, there's so many things I want to know, but then I want to give others also a chance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Subina ma'am. Whoever wants to speak next, you can just show your hand or give a gesture and we'll unmute. Yes, Bhavna ma'am, please.
Yeah. So Dr. Sawant, you rightly said, this is what I shared, that is student ownership. And anytime, anywhere, which is now we need to follow and we need to do. Subina ma'am, you just now shared about joyful learning and playful learning. This is what we need to do and we need to follow as a leader, because we need to make learning happen, and that learning should be engaged in a joyful manner, wherein the child is learning and engaged in the activities, that's why the project-based learning has been appreciated during the Corona times. That was a time when each assessment was based on project-based learning, because that was the thing which we can do for the assessment, because the kids were not there with us. So we used this tool to assess them during the Corona times. So this is how we can conclude, and we can give them the platform that yes, you are here and we are listening. And yes, teaching will become an extremely profitable profession, because as you said right now, that it is the conversation. So now when we are having a good conversation with my student will raise my value, and automatically the teachers will be paid the highest salary, and mark my word, it will happen. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna ma'am. You're very right in some of the points. Sarita ma'am, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, so like Veena ma'am said, I am visualizing that in my own way, that communication and giving values to the children, that will be a challenge in the upcoming years. So now I feel, I'm suddenly in this conversation having weird ideas. Now I'm thinking of Japanese style of schooling, where, since we are now entering into areas where we have nuclear families, and parents are working, both mother and father are out of the house. So all these homely things, communication, sharing, caring, all that, children may find it difficult to visualize how it was happening. So we have to make children learn it in the classrooms. So I get an idea that in Japanese style of schools, where they have, food preparation, distribution, cleaning, and everything is a part of the school timings, So probably one thing, day boarding kind of a setup where children spend a little more extra time beyond this 8 to 2 hours of schooling and share these things in a very happy atmosphere, because they don't have brothers, sisters and siblings at home. So all this is taught in-house in the school itself, and post senior classes, or maybe after 9th standard or 10th standard, I had this point in my mind that internships should start from the school now. It is a futuristic thought, but I think if that starts from an early stage, all skill-based things and all kaushal, whatever we are thinking and talking of, will give a direction to the student as this is my life and this is what I want to do for the next 20, 30 years, and I should be happy and passionate about my work. So then I think it's a culmination of these two things I wanted to add. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarita. I think the main focus of your point was that now we need to believe more on experimentation rather than just sharing experience. Till now, education was about sharing experience. It's now typically coming together and experimenting with life and doing things that life actually wants you to do. So over to Shoury, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I saw somebody else also had Miss Vinay. Okay, three things. I really feel much more enlightened after listening to so much of rich thoughts. I thought I'll just address these 3 points. One was on on fostering creativity. Another one was on technology, and the third was there was a talk about villages. Yeah, so. I'll start in the reverse order. Villages, Mrs. Katiyar, ma'am, I think the Amrita Vidyapeetham has a small thing going on called Live-in Labs. I think Daksh is familiar with it. I'd invite you to have a look at it. It sort of caters to all those points which you mentioned. 1, villages. 2, confidence in children, and 3, application based. Yeah. For those of you who will be having a look at it, it's called Live-in Labs from Amrita Vidyapeetham. It is not a corporate social responsibility initiative. It might look like that in the face of it, but it is not. It is a live degree program. It began in 2013, where we brought the villages of India, the students, and the institution, Amrita Vidyapeetham, together. There's been a lot of interest generated from universities outside India. We've got almost 32 live, collaborations from universities outside India on this Live-in Labs thing. The broad strokes of it is students, engineering students, medical students spend more than 50 to 60% of their live course time in villages. They go there in the village, they live there, they identify a live problem, they bring it back to the labs at Amrita University, get a solution for it, take it back, implement it in the village with materials that are available in the village only, meaning it has to be practical, it has to be cost effective, and it has to stay, it has to be long standing. Faculty go and evaluate it there, and then they get their degree based on what they've done. Yeah, of course, the theory is also attached to it. So this was one. Second, there was a lot of talk on technology. I must put your fears at rest. Technology, at the way it is now, it cannot do 2 things. Number 1 is it cannot recognize. It does not work on pattern recognition yet. Meaning, while you have robots performing surgeries, you still do not have a robot that can segregate garbage. A robot or a machine cannot identify between plastic and paper, or it cannot identify which is an apple and which is an orange yet. Yeah. So that is one default of this thing. Second, technology is still not up to speed where they have common sense. You cannot have police officers as robots yet. Therefore, as a corollary of it, the way technology is now, it cannot replace teachers completely. It can do the things that you do on a daily basis. For example, correct an examination result, or aid in test scores, accumulating them, etc. Those daily mechanical things. But otherwise, that's where technology is now. And lastly is a thought or a question. Dr. Bhavna shared a quote from Albert Einstein, and that's what got me thinking. When was the last time that our current education system produced an Einstein or a Ramanujan or someone like that? Thomas Edison, probably. Even Miss Shakuntala Devi, at some point of time, had to step out of the education system. Otherwise, she wouldn't have got the fame that she eventually managed to garner. We might have an Abdul Kalam somewhere, but they're all far in between. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shoury sir. I think we need to create more safe spaces for education where children can experiment more. I think we now need to really believe in the power of experimentation than just experience. Because even when you talk of technology, we've all learned it through experimentation. And that's the strongest skill if you are skilled at it. So I think Vinay ma'am wants to say something. Ma'am, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I would just answer out to Dr. Shoury as here what he was saying, that kind of skills is important. I completely agree. So to prepare our learners, as well as I would say not only learners, but as we as an educator also had to focus more on the development of soft skills, because and the attributes which the traditional education. So that's why we are not getting more of Ramanujan or Einstein in this ages, because we have moved out of those soft skills and the traditional education. We're trying to give them something. In the verge of giving them something new, we have actually forgotten that our future ready learning means we are supposed to be a mentor for development of skills like which can replace the traditional learning, but not completely throw the traditional learning outside, with a new range of pedagogical approaches, which creates, which makes them more successful, which makes them more curious, makes them more understanding, engaged, resilient, and an individual who are ready to face the challenges of 21st centuries and beyond. So the basic thing which puts all these together is we have to make them that much compatible that they are supposed to use their skills in the real life context. They have actually forgotten how they're supposed to use real life context skills which they're learning in the schools, because we never had so much of range of education. Like if I see curriculum, now I have like so many curriculums, it's difficult to decide which curriculum the child should go for. Ultimately, what every curriculum should teach is just to put every learning, whatever you're doing, whatever skills you're learning, put it into a real life context. Because I would just end up with one small thing is, it's said by somebody that education is not preparation for life, but I believe that education is life itself. So let's bring that life as an educator in every child whom we are associated with and can make a difference, then let's make that difference. Thank you.
So let's bring life back to education, and let's add a lot more context to education, make it a little more real than just a simulation. Because whenever we try to structure education, the first thing that most of us do, we build a simulation. And once we get into that simulation, we feel the limits to it. So we now need to understand how to make those simulations even more contextual and even more real life. While working with so many teens and so many school leaders for such a long time now, we discovered one very simple thing and one very simple thread that connects humans across board, across the globe, across everywhere. Humans learn with stories, whether they come from mythology, whether they come from history, whether they come from technology, it has to be a story. Only then humans remember it. And in psychology, there's a term called story bias. And humans live with that. We always try to establish a cause and effect relationship into everything in life. And that's when we remember things, or that's when the things become ours, or typically we take onus of them. So while working with so many teens, we felt their stories are out of context. So we said, let's make a platform that could bring those stories back into context. Every month, we try to find teens who are doing amazingly well in life and share their stories with many more teens so that it's real life and it's contextual. And around a year back, we established the world's first and the biggest parliament of teenagers, which is the World Teen Parliament, supported by UNESCO and organizations across the world, even the Amrita Vidyapeetham. We every year search for 100 teens who have a vision for the world. And if they can get the public support for it, like in an actual parliament, then these 100 teens become the members of parliament. And then we train them, mentor them, support them, and even fund them work on ideas that build a future. Because the problem is, a teenager is not a recognized stakeholder in policy making everywhere. And that needs to change. We need to understand it's time where it has to be a conversation. It cannot be a dictation. Thank you so much, everyone. This was the Blub World Web Talks 198th episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, and if you want to attend the future sessions, open your audio, say a big yes, and thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Have an amazing evening ahead.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
really wonderful.
Yes, and
Wonderful,
happy New Year
wonderful.
to everyone.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for inviting me. Thanks.